episode 2 of Along the Lanes, my podcast about knitting, crafts and various fluffy things that interest me. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed, thank you to everyone who's watched. I was really blown away from the feedback I've had so far. Those of you who are already subscribed, I'm going to ask you a favour. I've changed YouTube channel to keep family things and the podcast separate. So if you've come through from Ravelry or from a tweet and you haven't noticed, the channel has changed. So you can either resubscribe down here or possibly up there. So do subscribe. I promise this time I'm here to stay. I'm sticking to this channel, and there's many more podcasts to come. With all the lovely comments you've given me, there's so much that I want to talk about. There's so much I want to show you. I want to go stash diving in there. Without further ado, let's start. So this week I don't have a glass of wine. It's 10:30 on a Tuesday. It would be slightly strange. But I do have some lovely progress on some of my projects, and I've got a few finished objects to show you. We'll also flash back to Saturday, where I recorded a little bit of the podcast in order to show you the Pom Pom Magazine that arrived, which I absolutely love. So we'll go back in time for that. So this week I've got progress on 2 projects to show you. First, the Hitofude, which I'm still massively in love with. Last time I showed you, I had finished the sleeves, I had done the ribbing that forms a kind of shrug, and I was starting to work on the length for the body. And since then, here's the progress. I have done 3 repeats of the normal part of the body, and then 2 sets, almost 2 full sets of charts for the increases. That gives it that kind of waterfall feel to the sides. So you can see everything from the ribbing down has pretty much happened in the past 2 weeks. It's still not a fast-going project, but it's pleasant. I think once you get the grip, you get to grips with the lace pattern, the only thing that changes with the increases is that there's a little bit more of a gap of stockinette in between each section, each repeat. Really lovely. I cannot wait to wear it. I tried it on a couple of nights ago, and it feels like once blocked it should be a perfect fit. So I'm making the medium, and I think lace is a funny thing. It almost looks like a children's cardigan at this point, because lace gets all scrunched up and doesn't open up until you wash it and block it. And I'm really looking forward to blocking this to see the results, and I'll try and document it from before to after. My teeny tiny disappointment with this project is I'm using a lovely Madeleine Tosh yarn, and you know how they advise you with hand-dyed yarns to alternate a couple of balls. So the fact that they're hand-dyed means that sometimes the colour won't be a perfect match, even when they're theoretically within the same batch. Unfortunately, I didn't do this here, and I don't think it'll be too noticeable, but I can tell around here there's a line where it goes from darker grey to slightly lighter grey. I don't think it'll bother me in the long term, but now I can see it. I can't unsee it. Hopefully nobody else will notice. So I guess that's progress on the Hitofude. So this is the 2nd ball, and I'm already about halfway down the body section. So even though I've got 4 balls, I think I might end up being okay with just 3, which would be a bit crazy. Never thought I'd make a whole cardigan out of 3 balls. But yes, lovely project, and I'm hoping that it won't be too long before I can show you a completed version of it. I love that project, but it's not ideal for things like taking on travel, because I don't like having to get out a pattern when I'm travelling, and it's not great either for things like taking to the knit night at the pub, because, you know, cider, lace knitting might not go too well. So my lovely work in progress for taking along to things like knit night, what I've got here is the Trillian shawl. Oops, I'm halfway through a row. It's a very, very simple 2-row shawl. So you get a lovely squishy garter stitch and a little eyelet edging. And it's the second one that I'm making from her trilogy of 4 patterns from the Hitchhiker's Guide. So I've made the Hitchhiker, which I absolutely love and I wear all the time. And this is the second one. And it's a really lovely, quite straightforward project. Being only 2 rows, once you've learnt it, you don't tend to need to carry a pattern around. And it's just one of those where you work until you get to almost to the end of your ball, and then in the other angle of the V, I'll use the last bit to do an eyelet edging that matches the other side. It'll still be slightly asymmetric, but really lovely. The yarn is this one in the skein. It's Manos del Uruguay Alegria, which I think is somewhere between sock weight and almost sport weight. This is what it looks like in the skein. At first I thought that this teal was going to stand out more, but actually I'm quite pleasantly surprised that it all feels kind of, it fits in really nicely. So yeah, that's a great project for just keeping in my bag and working on while I'm talking to somebody, because the bulk of it is garter stitch with the exception of 9 stitches on the edge, so couldn't be any simpler. Now I'd be curious to hear what you're like when you travel. I know I'm terrible. The moment I know I'm getting on a plane or I'm on a train for a long journey or anything like that, my thoughts turn to, what knitting am I taking? So I might end up with 5 projects in progress, or balls of yarn with needles, with pattern, prepared just in case I've got that huge amount of time and nothing to do. So I'll have 5 projects packed and not a single pair of socks or any clothes. So I'd be curious to hear if you're as bad. I think that's just the way knitters' minds work. So those are my 2 works in progress. So moving on to finished objects, I am cheating slightly because I don't have a finished object that I've made since I've started the podcast. But what I chose to do is show you 2 of my favourite, proudest, most loved finished objects. And I think they also rate at the 2 ends of the scale for my most worn and my least worn projects. So we'll start with the least worn. Get your tissues, it's a bit of a sad story. So this is also my biggest finished object. This absolutely beautiful and incredibly scratchy pullover. So this is, God, I can't even hold it against me. This is a pattern by Isolde Teague called Strokkur. And I used the recommended yarn, which is an Icelandic yarn, Istex Lopi, about Aran weight. And there's something so satisfying about working with Aran weight because it just progresses so fast. So this was a brilliant project. You start from the bottom and you build up to roughly the armpits. Then you work the sleeves up to the same point, and then you join them and you work in the round. And then there's that beautiful, satisfying bit of doing colour work at the top. And I hadn't done much colour work before, so this just progressed beautifully, was incredibly satisfying. But I had an inkling the whole way along thinking, that's quite rough yarn. It's hard on the hands and it doesn't feel particularly soft. But I'm not one for merino and cashmere only. I'm sure I can withstand a little bit of roughness. I'm sure it'll get better with washing. So finished the project. Tried it on, thought, that's pretty spiky. Put a long sleeve on underneath. Tried it again, and all I had was just this single little band of the Istex Lopi that was touching my neck, and even then it just felt like a torture collar. So I thought, I'll give it a good wash in conditioner, which is recommended, and I left it overnight, and I've just tried everything, And unfortunately, this gorgeous project that I absolutely loved making, I've worn for all of 3 minutes because I just can't do it. So it's a project, it's a pattern I definitely want to make again. It's a really lovely project. The instructions are clear, the charts are brilliant. The opportunities for colour work with the top of this are just infinite, but I'm going to have to use a different yarn. I think I might try Cascade 220. I think that's a bit more toned down in terms of scratchiness. And this one, well, hopefully I can find a good home for it to somebody who's a little bit tougher than I am. On the complete other end of the scale is the shawl that I made a few years back and I just haven't taken off since. I absolutely love it. So it's the Hogwarts Express, which has little owls all along the edge. It was my first attempt at cabling, so I thought I'll start with something simple. This project literally has 1, 2, 3 rows of cable throughout the whole project. So the body is all garter stitch, straightforward. You get to the edge, you work a little bit on the different bits of the owl, and then you've got those 3 rows where you really have to sit down. If it's your first time doing cables, you just sit down, relax, and do the cabling. And there's also the opportunity to put beads, so that's a single row of beads. Again, I think it's a good way to figure out if you enjoy those things. I'm not super fond of cabling. I'm not sure I'd do a full cabled jumper, but this project, it was very effective having 3 rows of cabling and getting some lovely little owls. So I'm really in love with this. Yarn wise, I made it in Skin Queen Opulent, which is pure cashmere. It's like wearing a cloud. It's very, very warm, unquestionably, so I haven't worn it this summer, but just so beautiful, and it's now so fluffy. It's got kind of just a halo around it, but I still absolutely love it. In fact, I might make another one when this one starts getting a little bit too fluffy. So that's the story of 2 finished objects, one that I love but I won't be wearing, and one that I adore and I'm wearing as much as I can. Now let's go back in time to Saturday, where I opened my Pom Pom Magazine for this quarter that arrived in the post Saturday morning. The post arrived this morning and I couldn't wait to record the podcast just so I could open this, but I wanted to wait for you. So it's the Pom Pom Magazine for this quarter. If you're not familiar with Pom Pom Magazine, it has existed for, let's see, that's the first one, since summer 2012, and there are 4 issues a year, and it's created by this lovely team of people in London, though I'm sure the designers are from all over the world. And I love their designs. They're youthful, they're really lovely, and there's good quality. I think I've calculated in the recent ones there's about 8 or 9 patterns per issue, including at least 1 or 2 cardigans, sweaters, something suitable for the season that's coming. And it's just evolved so much since the very first one. I remember signing up to or subscribing to it and thinking, first one felt a little bit on the lean side and not particularly special, but since then it's just gotten so brilliant. Even the cover is just so tactile and lovely. But anyway, let me open this quarters one so I can show you just how lovely they are when they arrive. So they always come packaged in their own little lovely paper, and they always have a handwritten note. I just love it. It says, "Thanks Vero from Pom Pom." And this one is the autumn 2015, the wool issue. So, been looking forward to this. Oh, absolutely lovely. So much nice stuff. Well, that's tonight sorted, so I'll be having a look at that. Even though on a day like today, I don't fancy looking at heavy knits because it's hot today. And another fantastic thing about Pom Pom is that they always give you a little code. So in the first page of your copy, there's a code that allows you to go on Ravelry and download the digital copy of it. So in my case, I'm always scribbling on my patterns. I'm always kind of scrunching them into a bag, and I just wouldn't use the magazine if I had to put the magazine in my bag and scribble into it, because it's just so beautiful. So to be able to have a digital copy of the pattern is just a godsend. Thank you so much. So here we are, it's Pom Pom Magazine for the autumn issue, and Pom Pom are also involved in the Great London Yarn Crawl, which I'll no doubt keep talking about until the cows come home. And love you, Pom Pom. And finally, if you're on Twitter, leave a comment below, let me know your username. I would love to put together a list of crafty people who are on Twitter, because there's nothing more satisfying than looking at a list of everyone's projects, all the tweets coming through of progress on projects, of lovely cups of tea, glasses of wine, and happy knitting. It's just such a happy sight when you wake up in the morning and you look at that list and you see all those beautiful projects. So do leave a comment below, let me know your username, I'll add you to the list, and next podcast I'll be sure to share that link for everyone to take a look at. So again, thank you. I'm really happy to have started this podcast finally. I'm having so much fun recording it, and hopefully you're having just as much fun watching it. Don't forget, I've changed channels, so do subscribe again, even if you have, and I'll see you soon on Twitter or on Ravelry, and here probably next week. Bye bye!